So welcome everyone to the March 2016 Greater Baltimore Area UU Cluster Council. I'm David Pyle, the primary contact. We just finished our personal check-in, and we're moving into the part of our agenda where we check in about what is happening in our congregation. So this is where we go by congregation and just tell each other about if there are particular really great, cool things that are upcoming, things that you're working with, trends maybe that you're seeing in your congregation that you want to see is happening, and if it's happening in other congregations in the area. So this is your time. So who would like to check in for their congregation first?
Larry at UU Falston. We are still running on ad hoc minister, but we have identified one that we may have a mutual affinity for, and we're going to pursue an invitation to join us as a part-time minister.
What else? Anything else happening, Larry?
Our core attendees are constant, and we continue to enjoy the fellowship of our ad hoc ministers.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Larry. Who else? Who would like to check in next for their congregation?
Hey, this is Ken Grimm from Channing Memorial. And, as Reverend Susan said, in the last couple months of her ministry, and well, I hate to see her go, but our search committee, our
interim team, transition team,
our transition team, all used to be known as interim minister search committee, is busy at work. I believe we have our application and materials into the UUA at this point.
I received confirmation that they had received them. Yes.
Great. And we're also in the middle of our canvas. We're about 3/4 of the way done, I guess, and looks like we're doing pretty well. Is there anything else?
There is Diana and Susan.
That's true. I think that's about it.
Well, does anyone else from Channing Memorial like to check in about what's happening in the congregation?
This is Diana again. We had a friend of yours do the service at Channing last Sunday. David, he is, and now I can't remember his name.
Arnold Jenkins?
Who?
Was it Arnold Jenkins?
Anthony Jenkins.
Anthony Jenkins. Yes.
Yes. He started the service out by saying that that he was a good friend of yours and that you told him how much love there is in our congregation. So he started out very well.
Well, and I had just spent, I'll just check in about that. Anthony Jenkins is a candidate for the UU ministry. He's the intern minister at Columbia, at our congregation in Columbia, Maryland. And he is also a candidate for the Unitarian Universalist Military Chaplaincy. And so he and I had just spent a week jumping off of telephone poles, literally jumping off of telephone poles at a UU military chaplain's retreat. So it's good that he was there, yes. They had us do a high wire obstacle course as a part of the retreat. So, so good, I'm glad. Susan, anything else about what's happening at Channing or about, your last couple months there?
That's basically it. I've got a number of sort of techniques or methods I'm going to be using to have individual conversations with some folks. I've scheduled several, I guess you'd call them teas over the next couple of months for people to drop in and just chat and ask questions, and a number of methods of giving myself and others opportunities to say goodbye and ask questions and just be together and appreciate one another and what's happened over the last 13 years. So from my side, it's feeling pretty good. We'll see how it's feeling from the congregation side. But I'm very proud of them. They're doing a wonderful, wonderful job in terms of moving into these transition times.
So you all planning a big party for her or anything?
Oh, yeah.
Well, when?
It's May, it's a potluck. It's on May 29th, I believe. It's from,
It'd be the 29th.
it starts at 10, I think it goes till 2:30 in the afternoon. I think it starts in the morning, so.
Yeah, it'll start after worship.
Mhm.
So we'll be doing our flower communion as part of worship, and then move from that into some goodbyes. And I'm planning a way of uncovenanting, sort of reversing the vows we took together as minister and congregation 13 years ago. We'll be uncovenanting and going through some ritual things in worship, and then partying a little and enjoying one another over food during the early part of the afternoon.
Then the rest of us will be crying.
So will I.
So thank you all. So who would like to check in for another one of our congregations?
Hi, David. It's Marty.
Hello, Marty.
I'm sorry there's no one here from First Unitarian downtown because
Well,
there's
you'll
been some
have the Monday-
amazing.
Yeah, you'll have the Monday, Thursday dinner tonight.
Well, that's right. I saw that. We had an amazing Jubilee 2 weeks ago. About 30 participants, I think, from many of the Northern Virginia, suburban Maryland churches, as well as Towson and First UU and Ethical Society. And my gosh, Paula Cole-Jones and her facilitators did a beautiful job. And I was thrilled as Towson not to have two of our old timers, but two of our young timers involved. And they haven't stopped talking about it yet. So Jubilee was wonderful. And we are beginning to plan some adore sessions both at Towson and in conjunction with First Unitarian. And I invite everyone, especially on April 30th, which is during our Unity weekend, to join us at Towson that Saturday night. We're going to be previewing a documentary that was done by the Australian Broadcasting Company about what's going on with racial justice here in Baltimore, especially after the Freddie Gray and the uprising. And we're going to have several people who were featured in that documentary to talk on a panel discussion. And then some, what we call Circle of Voices here in Baltimore. Some community organizers say the more the circles get together and talk, the less racism becomes a big issue. So please join us in Towson on April 30th and support all the great work we're doing, both conjunction and on our own in the racial justice issue.
Thank you, Marty. And David Carl Olson asked me to send, he sends his regrets that he's not here. He has to lead the Monday, Thursday event.
Yes.
So he sent the list of events, the schedule of events for Unity Weekend. Did everybody receive that?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
So feel free to respond directly to David if there are any questions. And he said he'd be back with us next month. Thank you, Marty, and checking in part for two different congregations, but we also have Claire and Tom from Towson. So anything y'all would like to add about Towson?
I can add some things relative to the youth programming that's been going on at Towson. This year we had some folks one person move into the congregation who had some experience with OWL for younger children. So we now have a K-2 OWL class that's running for the first time this year, and we're kind of looking forward to doing the next level up. And have had a number of successful mixtures of our youth programming with adults. We had our DRE ran a mystery pals activity, which kind of let young people associate with old people, older folks, and try to figure out who they were. And it turned out to be a really fun thing for both young and old, and then we had a big party at the end. Our YRUU is reconstituted. We had a year when the demographics just weren't with us as far as having enough members in the right age group, but now we've got a nice group of about 9 or 10 8th to 10th graders, 8th to 11th, excuse me, and which we are, looks like we're going to keep them. So, and they did a very good job on a service about a month ago. Our church has moved to the theme-based ministry, and we were able to have that group match the theme for the month, which happened to be friendship. So we all danced into a song from SpongeBob SquarePants, and that kind of set the mood. A couple of things I probably should have said during my personal time is that I've been involved in planning the UU United Nations Office seminar, spring seminar, which is happening the same weekend as Marty has pointed out a couple of times, same weekend as the district convention. So I won't be able to get there for the district convention. And also, in the last month or so, I had the opportunity to do some training with Evan Carville Zemer. Or is it Zeimer?
Zemer.
And Zemer, and on the new program of the fundamentals of healthy youth ministry. And it was a great session. I'm now, I think, supposedly qualified to lead trainings, although folks we'll be working, the folks who are trained will be working with district people who are experienced for a while, but I'm kind of looking forward to maybe doing some of that at the congregations, our congregation and/or congregations in the cluster. So I think I've talked enough.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
Tom.
Claire, anything you'd like to add?
Our mission task force has met with the staff and the operations team and our board, and the feedback has been interesting and different in each of those meetings. So it's interesting.
Is that interesting in the Asian sense, as in you live in interesting times? So thank you all. Your journey, I always thought you would have an interesting journey through this mission, vision, identity, culture conversation. So I look forward to hearing how that's going sometime in the next month. So I think, Shirley, I think we're,
yes.
If you'd like to check in about Cedarhurst.
Right. We also had 2 people attend the Jubilee training, and we just recently completed some discussion groups on the common book read, Just Mercy. And this was done as a preliminary steps to developing our racial justice program at Cedarhurst. We are looking for a quarter-time DRE. So if you put the word out there, send some folks our way, we hope to have a quarter-time DRE in place by the fall for our RE program. And Reverend Amy is going to be doing a Unitarian Passover Seder on April 23rd at 5 o'clock. And all are welcome to attend. Just let us know if you plan to. That's all we're doing right now.
Well, that's a lot, Shirley. Thank you.
Okay.
And I think that's every congregation that's here right now. Am I right? I know that Columbia, if were they here, Paige or somebody else would check in about the fact that their new sanctuary is almost done. They're expecting to move into it in the next 2 weeks or so. And they're rescheduling. They're going to be bringing, I don't know if it's been rescheduled or not yet, but they have an intention to bring Opal Tometi, one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, into Columbia sometime later in the spring to do a presentation and both presentation and question and answer. I've seen Opal talk. I mean, one of the most powerful things that I got when I last got to hear her speak was her saying to a group of 400 Unitarian Universalists down in Birmingham, we would love to have you come with us in this work, but not if you think you're going to be in charge. This is our movement.
Wow.
We need allies. We don't need people to take over. So it was a very powerful thing, I thought, for her to say to us. I think she has a powerful message to share. So I will send out that information when she's going to be presenting at Columbia. With that, I think that's all. I think that's all of our congregations that we have here today, right? Well, wonderful. So, did everybody get the information that I emailed out about a week and a half ago, and then again today, or yesterday, or today, just to make sure that you all had it regarding regionalization?
Yes.
Yep.
So we'll spend. I want to have a conversation that mainly a time to be able to answer questions that you all might have, if you have any. District Assembly is coming up in 2 weeks, 8th and 9th, in York, Pennsylvania. We will be sending out, it looks like tomorrow morning, we will be sending out through the president's list, the email list, and through all the cluster lists, the actual wording of the motion that the Joseph Priest, the district board, is going to be putting before the District Assembly. But in essence, the motion is to empower the board to dissolve the district on a timeline of their own choosing once they determine that all of the current functions being that the district is responsible for are managed by the region. So it's not a motion to dissolve the district next week. Somebody wrote me today and said, okay, what will your title be in mid-April? My title in mid-April will still be district executive. It is a potential that the district board wouldn't exercise that for up to 2 years or longer, depending on the criteria that they set of what they want to see is in place before they dissolve the district. We'll send out the full, there's about a 5-page prelude to it, but what I wanted to do today would be to see if there are any questions related to both the operational and the governance structure that is proposed for regionalization. So I'm going to share screen for a minute. Can you all see the agenda?
No.
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 Okay, we'll
I
stop the share screen.
And
2 hands.
Let's try this again. Does somebody have a hand up? There, now you should be able to see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Good. So, first thing I want to put up is this complicated diagram. Is it large enough you all can see?
Yeah.
All right. So feel free to stop me and ask you any questions that you have at the moment. I'm going to try and do this quickly under the assumption that you all may not need all of this. But the basic premise, the idea behind this for governance is that 50 years ago when districts were created 40, 50 years ago, we didn't have the ability to use telecommunications like this. We didn't have, it was more difficult for congregations to be directly represented in the association. And so the idea was to create a middle level of governance between the congregations and the association. And the idea would be that people would come to the district meetings, and they would vote on the issues of importance before the association at district meetings. And then the district boards could represent that within the wider association. And they did that in 2 ways. One, district boards had a representative from each district on the UUA Board of Trustees, number one. And number two, district boards could put a motion directly on the floor of the General Assembly. When about 4 years ago, the UUA Board of Trustees downsized, district boards no longer had individual representatives on the Board of Trustees. So the first part of that intention about having the middle level of governance went away when they went from a 21-person board to down to a 12-person board. The second part was that it's now not just district boards that can put a motion on the floor of the General Assembly, but it's any 15 congregations working together. Now, a district board putting a motion on the floor of the General Assembly is, in essence, 71 congregations working together. This allows for 15 congregations. So what is, in essence, 2 clusters, but it doesn't have to be clusters. It could be any 15 congregations, put together, put a motion on the floor of the General Assembly. Together put an agenda item on the agenda for the General Assembly. Any delegate can put a motion on the floor for the General Assembly. So just to make that clear as well. So the basic concept here is that congregations, because of virtual delegates, because of the ability for 15 congregations to add items to the agenda, because of lots of these reasons, and because of the ability that communications now allow for both telephone and email access directly to the UUA Board of Trustees, that there isn't a need for a middle level of governance. And the Joseph Priestley District Board came to the conclusion that their governance role between congregations and the UUA was no longer necessary. They then did a survey to see how congregations were feeling connected to the UUA to the JPD Board of Trustees. And the answer that came back was they were not. Most congregations felt they had little to no connection to the Joseph Priestley District Board of Trustees, Board of Directors. They didn't know who they were. They didn't really know how they could be in contact with them. When most people thought of the district, what they thought of was the district staff, me and the other district staff members. So the board came to the conclusion that if there wasn't, and also in that survey, congregations said that they felt a much deeper connection to the General Assembly than they did to the JPD Board of Directors. So the Board of Directors came to the conclusion that they were in a governance place that was no longer necessary. So their proposal is to remove that piece from the governance equation. Now, they're not planning to do that immediately. They're planning one of the preconditions that they're intending to set is that the UUA Board of Trustees has to show that they have ways to be in direct communication with congregations before the JPD Board of Trustees will dissolve. Does this make sense to everyone?
Yes.
I'm not asking if you agree. I'm asking if it just makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So in this diagram, what you have is congregations who have relationships with each other, either directly or through cluster organizations like a cluster council. Now, we said clusters and other forms of congregational partnerships because clusters happen in different ways across the country and in different parts of our region. But this is the main way that clusters are happening within the Joseph Priestley District, is through these kinds of congregational clusters. Congregations have communications linkages with clusters, and the clusters, and this is one of the exciting things, the clusters are going to be part of the linkage plan for the UUA Board of Trustees. In other words, the UUA Board of Trustees will see that there's a group of UUs who are connected to congregations that are meeting, and will be able to send information to hear from clusters what's happening, what's important, but also to be able to have me send you all information from time to time that the UUA Board of Trustees would like to make sure is getting to our congregational leadership. So that's, but the direct governance relationship of the association is, and this isn't a change, this has always been true. The direct governance relationship is from the congregations directly to the General Assembly. Congregations have always sent delegates to the General Assembly. It's not been a place of you send delegates to the district assembly and the district assembly elects delegates to go to the General Assembly, which would be the kind of federal structure. The primary governance relationship doesn't change. Has anybody on this call served as a virtual delegate to the General Assembly yet? Have any of you all been to General Assembly?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
A few people have. I'll tell you, I've been to General Assembly about 10 times. I served as a virtual delegate once. And I learned more about our association by serving as a virtual delegate than I ever did being there.
Wow.
So much closer attention. I caught things that I didn't know were even happening. Why? Because when I'm there, I'm talking to all my friends. I'm distracted. You know, there's all kinds of other workshops and trainings. By being a virtual delegate, I'm paying attention to the business of the association. I'm actually listening to the speeches. I'm actually watching the motions as they happen. I even got to call for a vote from Southern California at a GA that was in Kentucky. So if I wasn't UUA staff now and they didn't make me go to GA, I'd probably still be being a virtual delegate about every other year, just because I loved the experience. And we did it by coming together in our congregation sanctuary, 5 of us, who were all virtual delegates. And we came together each day and watched it together and talked about it amongst ourselves. So just to say, might add, it's not too late to sign up to be a virtual delegate for General Assembly this year, if you're not planning on going to Columbus. So this is the basic concept for the governance and linkage, the governance and information connections that's proposed under regionalization. Do you have any questions? Anything I can answer?
You want to order a pizza?
I would like to order a pizza, yeah. Any questions I can answer?
I'm going to put myself on mute right now.
There we go. Thank you, Larry. I got all hungry there for a second.
David, my question is, how do we get congregations to buy into this cluster group of governance when it's so new and different?
Yeah. So the first part is us just doing it, right? And having these meetings. And one of the things that will be happening is over the summer, into the late spring, early summer, I'll be communicating with every congregational board about these changes. And inviting them, asking for them to be more aware of, but also supportive of the transitions related to governance and linkage, and in particular how, in some ways, what we're doing is making the clusters more important,
right,
for the relationships between congregations. So that's part of it, but really the part of it is the more we do together, the more it will connect with congregations, I think. Does that answer your question at all?
It begins. I guess I was hoping there's a grander scheme out there.
There is, but give me a second. We'll get there in a second.
Okay.
Because what we've done right now is half the equation. So I'll talk about the other half of the equation in a second. I just want to make sure that the governance side, the information side, not the staff side, because we're still going to talk about the staff operations side.
Okay.
So this is just the governance, the official relationship between congregations side. Okay?
Yes.
Any other questions on this part? If not, I'll go to the operations side. All right. So another diagram. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
So this is the diagram that describes my job, that describes the staff relationship to congregations. So remember, the primary relationship between the primary relationship on the governance side was the relationship between the congregation and the General Assembly, right? In this structure, the primary relationship is the relationship between the primary contact, me, and the congregations, you all. So each congregation now has assigned a UUA staff person who is your primary contact. We've talked about this before, but I want to talk about it in the linkage of these governance structure, of these operation structures. That primary contact is a full-time staff person who one half of their job is to support 25 to 30 congregations as your direct consultant. Now, that doesn't mean that I do everything for you. It means that I am the first stop. That when you all have a question, so you don't have to translate the entirety of the UUA to your particular congregational context. That's my job. You don't have to know who to call for whatever. That's my job. All you all have to know is to contact me. And for example, if let's say Channing Memorial, you're looking for an interim minister. You don't have to know who all in the UUA you have to find to do that. You just do what we did. You call me, and then I help you all navigate those next steps. Whatever, and we'll get to what more that is. One of the ways that I do that is by working with you all both individually as congregations, but also together as congregations within a cluster. And so that's this meeting. How we work with you all together within one cluster. So that's this relationship right here. Now, I, as the primary contact, I, as a surge staff person, I work for a what's known as the Central East Regional Lead. And the regional lead is the person who supports all the primary contacts and coordinates our efforts. And some of you all may know her. Her name is the Reverend Joan Van Beesler. And she was the Ohio Meadville District Executive prior to regionalization. So through that relationship, we then have Joan's boss, who is the Director of Congregational Life for the UUA. And he supports the 5 regional leads. And that position, the Director of Congregational Life, is a member of the UUA Leadership Council, which is the senior staff group. So that's the direct line from the president to the chief operating officer to the leadership council, Director of Congregational Life, to the regional lead, to me, to you. Right? Long line, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear before we go on to the other 2 pieces of this.
I have a question, David.
Sure.
Diana, how many clusters are you responsible for?
I am responsible for 3. So
okay.
We have, which is a total for me of 20, right now, 28 congregations. I'm about to give 3 away because we're connecting them with 2 other clusters. To be honest, I kept those 3 congregations because our new staff person had just left serving 2 of them as their minister, and we needed a year for her to not be connected to them. And that's the Reverend Megan Foley. But we're handling, those 3 will be going away. I will be down to 25. The 3 clusters that I serve, the Greater Baltimore cluster, the Central Pennsylvania cluster, and the Delmarva Peninsula cluster. So mine are really kind of all up and down the Chesapeake and the Susquehanna. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And just so you know, we have 2 other primary contacts that work in the Joseph Priestley District. The Reverend Megan Foley, she serves as the primary contact for the Capital Cluster and the Northern Virginia Cluster. So though she only has 2 clusters, she has about the same number of congregations because they're bigger clusters. And we have Pat Infante, who serves as the primary contact for the Greater Philadelphia Cluster and for 2 clusters in Metro New York City. She's got the Manhattan cluster and I think the Long Island cluster. So And the bless her heart, she's the only one that can get to all of her congregations on public transit.
Wow.
So, I'm the primary contact, but I can't do everything for you. My job is to know the system. A lot of the first line consultations, a lot of basic stuff, a lot of, just one-on-one type consultation and coaching work, I do that. But I have a lot of other people that can help me. And I have teams of specialists. First off, we have what are called program managers. Now, remember I said that my supporting my 25 congregations is one half of my job, right? The other half of my job is that I am a program manager for the entire region for a couple of areas. So I run the program, and I'm the major consultant for a couple of areas in the entire region. So for myself, one of those program manager areas, I'm the program manager for Justice Ministries. For the moment, we're actually bringing someone on full time who's going to take that responsibility for me. This summer, she'll be the new program manager for Justice Ministries. You may know her. Her name is the Reverend Hope Johnson. Yes. She's going to be amazing in that role. I am the program manager for governance, for congregational governance. I am the program manager for, I'm becoming, as of April 1st, I'm the program manager for adjunct staff consultations. So we have a team of lay leaders like you and some ministers who are really good at certain things, and I help run the program that helps make those people available to your congregations. Anybody worked with Mike Harris over the last couple of years for anything? I know a few of you here know Lynn Cox.
Yes.
Lynn Cox is also, Lynn Cox is one of our adjunct staff consultants. I am also the specialist. There are a couple areas where we just recognized that I have a special skill in it. So I'm the specialist for the region in staff operations. So not about hiring staff, but about how you assess and develop a staff for a large church team. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here in Pittsburgh, is I'm doing a staffing assessment for them right now, and I'm interviewing staff tomorrow. And I am also the specialist in what we call after pastor or professional staff misconduct. So that's not something I ever want to do with any of you all. But when that does happen, that we have a professional staff person that has had to be removed for misconduct, a specialist that comes in and helps with that. So that's one of our 10 program consultants in the region. So we have 10 people on our regional staff that all have different types of special skills that they are available and that I can make available to congregations by referral. So, for example, a congregation that is looking at redeveloping a new director of religious education program. I have a specialist in that. Her name is Pat Infante. And Pat, I can make a referral to have Pat come in and help a congregation do that. We also have, we said, adjunct staff, which are just lay leaders and congregational leaders like you all who have shown a special skill in certain areas. We've got a team of them that we coordinate to make available to congregations. We also have other consultants, such as some consultant teams that are part of the UUA. Two that you may be familiar with. One of them is called Stewardship for Us. It's a preferred consultant team of the UUA to help congregations with major stewardship projects. We have another one called the UU Trauma Response Ministry, which is a consultation team that is available to help congregations through major significant traumatic events. Everything from, something like the shooting that occurred at Tennessee Valley UU Church several years ago, to, the unexpected death of a teen in a congregation, or, any type of congregational traumatic event. We have a team, a national level team that we can make referrals to have help coach congregations and provide support for congregations through that. And being the person who does those referrals is my job for your congregations. And even beyond the UUA, my job is to know what's available within our tradition and beyond to get the resources that your congregations need to lead your mission, to lead your mission, to live your mission. So, any questions on the referral process? And basically, it's call me. But any questions on that part?
Where does Black Lives Matter fit into this diagram, or is it just, yeah? Yeah.
So we have two places. We have a Justice Ministries program within the region, and I'm right now the program manager, although I am handing that off to the Reverend Hope Johnson this summer. All of our racial justice and multicultural competency programs are within that banner of that program. We also have a multicultural competency specialist on staff, Evan Carvel-Zemer, to be able to help congregations to really address how welcoming we are and where our assumptions lie when we meet people with different cultural with different cultural backgrounds. We'll talk about. That's a separate conversation. I'd love to do a focused presentation sometime on multicultural competency as part of our cluster meetings. But the Black Lives Matter is, and our UUA support for Black Lives Matter is in two places. One, within the regional staff, it's within the Justice Ministries Program Manager, and we've been sponsoring the Black Lives Matters forums that have been happening within the JPD, mostly in the Capital Cluster area over the last 6 months, as a major part of that project. But nationally, it is our relationship with Black Lives Matter is in the UUA Office of Multicultural Growth and Witness. Reverend Taquina Boston, who is a national UUA staff but lives and works out of Washington, D.C., and has been deeply involved in building the connections with and the support of Black Lives Matter. Diana, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
But I'd like to go beyond that. We've been very lucky in Joseph Priestley to have Paula Cole Jones.
Yes.
And she's done this wonderful Adore program that so many of our congregations are embracing, a dialogue on racial ethnicity, and also the Jubilee programs. Will we be able to see that continue?
Yes. The intention is that Paula Cole Jones, she is, a lot of people think she's JPD staff. She's actually not, and has not been. Paula Cole Jones is a consultant that the Joseph Priestley District has contracted with, to run racial justice programming. We offered to make her staff, and she said no. We also offered to make her UUA staff at one time, and she said no. So she likes the freedom of being able to be a consultant, and it also, we pay her more if she's a consultant. So we have built continued funding for. We're going to be doing it a little differently because she's been being paid by the hour up to this point, and the UUA structure doesn't allow us to do that, but it does allow us to pay her by the event. So we are transitioning her to a by the event where she basically bills us by the event. But we have built that funding into the regional budget as well.
Thank you.
And she will be working for the Justice Ministries Program Manager. So right now she works for me as the Justice Ministries Program Manager. She will be transitioning to working for Hope Johnson, and she and Hope have a great relationship. I've had one for a long time. I will say this though, Jubilee in particular has a problematic issue, and that is because of Crossroads, right? And we're in some negotiations about whether we're allowed to continue doing the curriculum. It's been kind of a backroom deal up to this point, and I don't know what the end of those negotiations are going to be. They are ongoing, and we will. Adore, however, is our program. And there are some great things about Jubilee, and there are some great things about Adore. And I have a feeling that we will find the right way through. But realize, Crossroads owns the Jubilee curriculum. We do not.
Right.
If they say we're not allowed to use it, then we're not allowed to use it.
A lot of us would like to be involved when you get to that negotiation.
At this point, it's happening at echelons above me.
Okay.
I'm I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. But I know Tequina Boston is involved in that. Hope and Gina Maurice Johnson are involved in that. Paula's been part of that conversation.
Thank you.
So we have a commitment to continuing the racial justice programming within the JPD and expanding that to the entire region, pairing it with multicultural, intercultural competency training. And because I think those two things go together. What all that will look like will develop over the next couple of years. Is that a good answer, Marty?
Yes, thank you, David. I just want to be involved.
Amen. I hear you. So let me talk about the last part of this diagram, and that's the Central East Regional Advisory Council. So one of the things that the Joseph Priestley District Board did do was provide oversight for how well the district executive was providing services to congregations. I think it's arguable how well they were doing that because they didn't view it as their primary responsibility, and they were relying upon reporting, self-reporting from the district executive as their primary way of knowing how well it was going. So they didn't have a lot of direct information from congregations. It was mostly that the district executive reported to them and they gave feedback. We're changing that. I think that there needs to be an accountability mechanism for how well we, the regional staff, are serving congregations that we, the regional staff, don't control. And so we have developed what's called the Central East Regional Advisory Council. It's a team of 8 people selected from across the region who do two surveys of congregations a year. The first survey is a targeted survey where 25 congregations are chosen from within the region. So there's 198 congregations in the region. They choose 25 of them a year, a different 25 every year. And in the fall of each year, they have one-on-one telephone conversations with the leaders of those congregations about how well they are being served by regional staff. And from that, they then produce a compilation report, which the full report this year was 60 pages long. The summary was about 8, and it was probably some of the best feedback I think I've ever seen. It was really and it gave us some great ideas for how we can continue to develop our ability to serve your congregations. Every spring, they will be doing a 100% survey of all congregations using a SurveyMonkey tool. That'll also be about drawing from congregations how well the UUA as a whole and the regional staff are serving congregations. Now, this is radically new. We've never done this kind of asking for feedback from congregations. Not just in the JPD, I mean nationally. The regional staffs, the district staffs have never really, it was always in the planning, but it never made it to fruition. One of the reasons why in my monitoring reports I have some non-compliances is because there were always survey tools to survey congregations about how well they were being served, and those survey tools were never created. So the primary work of the Central East Regional Advisory Council then produces those 2 reports, gives them to the regional lead and the director of congregational life, and those are part of 1, how the regional staff are themselves evaluated, as we are now evaluated, each of us is evaluated every year, and 2, also helps provide for the regional lead and the director of congregational life feedback about how to adapt our own programs to better serve congregations. And any congregation can certainly contact, I'll say this, If there's ever a concern about how well I'm serving congregations, please come to me directly. I'd love to talk about that. And if that conversation doesn't solve it from your perspective, congregations can always go directly to the Central East Regional Advisory Council. The names and contact information for the Advisory Council is on the SURGE website, or go directly to the regional lead, whose contact information is also on the SURGE website and is in this document, by the way. Contact information for both are in this document. So I'm excited that this finally has an accountability structure for the regional staff, which is something that's never, in my opinion, functioned very well. Any questions about this? Did any of you all get surveyed this year? Do you know?
No.
Because they don't tell us. They don't tell us which congregations are getting the fall survey. Under the assumption that then means we can't target our support to the congregations we know are being surveyed. So,
Okay.
Sorry.
I think they're worried that if we all knew that Cedar Lane was being surveyed, then we do a great job for Cedar Lane.
Yay.
So this is the last thing that's in this document. There's some descriptions of the linkages that I talked about, but the last thing I wanted to was just show that we put in here the actual email address for contact information for everybody every position that's listed in this document, for who's in that position and how you can contact them, including how you contact the advisory council. So with that, I'm going to very quickly transition, unless there's any other questions about the structure. Does this make the structure clearer than it was before for you?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Please share these documents with any delegates you have going to the district assembly if they haven't received them already. We'll be sending them out to them directly as well, but just please share them and invite people to come to the district assembly. The music on Friday night is Emma's Revolution.
Yay!
Yeah, that's a big band for us to get. That's a major get for us.
Yeah.
And they're also going to do the music for worship on Saturday morning. And we have Jim Key is doing the keynote address. We have and the Reverend Dr. Deborah Pope Lance is doing a special workshop series, a 3-part workshop series on leadership in congregations with difficult histories. She's a specialist in congregations that have had professional staff misconduct in their past, but she means it broader than that. Congregations that have had major conflict, congregations that have had major conflict avoidance, congregations that have had difficult times in their history. She's doing a special 3-part workshop series on how to be a leader in those congregations, and it's just very exciting. Last I wanted to take was a few minutes, and we had a series of questions that were asked at the President's Roundtable that we then produced a long document with a series of answers. And if you hadn't had a chance to read that, I encourage you to. But if you did, and if you had any questions, I wanted to make a few minutes to be able to ask.
They were good.
Well, David, can I ask, because there was some confusion at our board meeting.
Sure.
So we will be paying dues to the UUA and the JPD next year?
Mm-hmm.
So the intention is that either next year or the year after that, and we will be clear, partially it depends on the vote, partially it depends on how fast we're able to reach a unified budget. The amount will be the same. The question is whether you write one check or two.
Okay, because
The
there was...
overall intention is that eventually it will be one ask, all the monies go directly to the UUA, but it'll be the amount added of the current UUA, APF, and the JPD APF added together.
So it's not going to be based on the size of congregational budgets.
So that is coming. Now that is probably a year and a half to 2 years off. It won't be exactly congregational budget. What it will be is a percentage. What the idea that they're working with is a percentage of common shared expenses. So in other words, not all congregations have the exact same budget, but there are certain things that all congregations have in their budget, right? And so putting together, this is a version, this has already been field tested in the southern region called the GIFT program. They've been doing it now they're in their 3rd year, and they've been able to make it successful. The great benefit of this program is that it means that there's no longer a cost to having more members. The idea is to take away that desire that we have to limit the number of members we have because it's going to cost us more money.
Correct.
So that you can have as many members as you want, because the amount that you pay to the UUA in annual program fund dues for being fair share doesn't change. And it's based upon, the kind of shared expenses will be the cost for your facility, the cost for your electric bill, the cost for your staff, for your ministerial staff, for your, So does that help answer the question, Claire?
Yeah, no, that clarifies. We had some misconceptions going on.
I think somebody asked at the meeting, so we're going to save a lot of money because we won't be paying the JPD anymore, right? And the answer is we're consolidating those two. Was that the misconception that you all had?
Well, some of that, and I think also what the criteria, if it wasn't members, what the criteria was going to be, and we were hearing it was size of budget. So I just needed to clarify that.
Yeah, not size of budget. That was actually tried, and that failed miserably in the southern region. And for all the reasons you could probably predict. And so what they learned from the southern experiment was a designated set of common expenses, expenses that all congregations have. Okay.
I think that helps a lot. That helps a lot. Don't you think, Claire?
Yes.
And if you would like, we're going to be having, and you can tell people know this, at the staff for the annual program fund will be at General Assembly, at District Assembly, and they will be staffing a booth, and they'll be able to answer any questions that any leaders who are at District Assembly may have.
See you there.
Yay! Any other questions?
Yay.
Well, if not, then I will say thank you all for listening. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this didn't bore you all. I promise this will be the last time I talk on a cluster meeting about regionalization, unless you all ask me. Okay? Other than to tell you it's either happening or it's not happening, depending on how the vote goes. So with that, I want to shift us over to, let me pull up so the next thing on our agenda is planning for, actually that's last month, never mind. Let me pull up the right month.
Music festival?
Well, that's next, but we got one more before that, and that is that is cluster programming. It's basically for me to give an update to you on where we are, and to then ask if there is any more ideas for upcoming cluster programming that you all would like to have that I can take note of. So stewardship. Well, I've got a request from both you all and from the Central Pennsylvania cluster for a stewardship workshop sooner rather than later. And the idea that came from the Central Pennsylvania cluster was for a workshop on different forms of income generation besides the pledge. Be that building rentals, be that special campaigns, be that fundraisers, a workshop on that. And one of the exciting ideas that I'm bringing to you all is that if I were to put that request from both clusters together and say have the event somewhere in the northern end of the Baltimore cluster or the southern end of the Central Pennsylvania cluster, then I could justify bringing in one of the Stewardship for Us consultants, say Mark Ewert or Bill Klontz or Barry Finkelstein, to be able to lead a day-long or half-day-long workshop on all the different kinds of fundraising, all the different kinds of income generation that congregations can have beyond the pledge campaign. Is that in the realm? You all had what works, how we can freshen it up. I wanted to check with you all if you all were looking mainly at the pledge campaign itself, in which case I'll do 2 separate workshops. Or are you looking at different forms of income generation besides the pledge?
I was startled by an apparent posting on Facebook from Lynn Cox congratulating or receiving compliments on her stewardship seminar that she gave at UU Baltimore last week. I didn't know that there was a seminar on stewardship at UU Baltimore.
And that
now,
was
Lynn has wanted to put on and has offered to do this. She's probably not as qualified as the 3 experts that you just told us about, but it just seems bad form.
Well, we could certainly bring Lynn. That was not a district program. That was First UU Baltimore's program. But we could certainly ask her to come do it.
And they had a seminar that we have wanted to share, and we didn't know about it. So sure, put on the stewardship seminar. I think that's a great idea.
Well, would y'all like to have Lynn Cox come and do one, say, at Towson?
We had Lynn at Towson for a couple of things. She's wonderful, but I think it'd be nice to have it freshened up with something else.
Yeah, I think the idea of stewardship beyond the pledge campaign has, is interesting to me, at least. I'm not sure about the others.
Is there a way to integrate the 2 of them?
Well, it's possible we could do half day one and half day the other. That was the other thing I was thinking about.
Yeah.
But if you're
Go ahead. As a stewardship committee member, we're really looking for something new and different.
So, but primarily for the pledge campaign or beyond the pledge campaign?
The pledge campaign.
Okay. So what I think I'm hearing is 2 possibilities. What I think I'm hearing is that we do a joint workshop with Stewardship for Us that has for both clusters, has availability for both clusters, that is on stewardship beyond the pledge campaign. And then we also do a pledge campaign refresher workshop for Baltimore sometime in the fall, so that can then be integrated in next year's pledge campaign.
Can't hurt.
Does that sound like a good plan?
Sure.
And Larry, I want to come back. I want to come back to Larry. I want to say I'll hold that I did not recognize that because that was a First U Baltimore program that they didn't do the advertising for their program. Because it wasn't a district program, I wasn't thinking of it that way, and I'll hold responsibility for that. So, the Central PA program opened up to Baltimore, which means we would either have to have it in somewhere northern into Baltimore or somewhere accessible to Baltimore. Is York accessible to you all?
Yeah. Towson's better.
And I'm mainly trying to make sure that we can still make it accessible to Harrisburg
Okay.
And to Center County. So,
York.
so let's think about that one possibly at York. Or is Gettysburg? I'm not Gettysburg. Is Cumberland Valley's not any better, is it? Bowling Springs?
No.
No. So,
York is better.
is York
No,
better
York
than
is better.
Is York better than Lancaster?
Yes.
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 All right. So let's think about York for that one, and then for a one basically on new ideas for annual pledge campaigns that maybe we do somewhere either Towson or Columbia.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Sounds good.
Now I'm going to put the first. I'm going to put the first effort behind getting the ideas beyond the annual pledge campaign one up and running first, and maybe to do that over the late spring or early summer, and then try to get the one for the one in the Baltimore area for early fall. Does that sound all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. The witnessing workshop, next one, welcoming. Witnessing workshop, we can go at any time. If somebody volunteers, we can pick a weekend and we can make that happen. So I will send out I think Towson had volunteered at some point that they would be willing to do it. I've got a couple of weekends open in May. Claire, do you want to have a conversation about just putting down a date in May after this?
Sure, although Kai is actually the keeper of our church calendar, but we can try.
I can talk to Kai if I need to. Yeah.
Very full calendar.
In May?
Yeah.
Okay. Would it make sense to go to a different site then?
Well, we try.
So let's talk to Kai and we'll see what the calendar looks like, and then if it's full, we'll look at a different site. And maybe Falston?
Yeah.
Okay. And I will add to that one will do some of the retaining visitors and some of the revolving door stuff. Okay? And anti-racism, anti-oppression, ADORE is our primary program. We just had the One ADORE program there down in Baltimore. And we're planning to continue that.
We have it at Towson, April 30th.
Yeah. Did any of you all make it to the intercultural, multicultural competency workshop that was down at Cedar Lane?
When was that?
That was March 4th.
Right. Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, how was it?
It was good.
So that's something that we could bring. That's the Rob Keithan workshop, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's something that is now done. It can go on the road anytime. So we can start thinking about whether doing that in the Baltimore area would be useful.
We could do it in the fall at Towson.
Okay. So let's put it in at fall, and we'll think about where it could be.
Okay.
All right. So that's, anybody have any new additions or workshop ideas and trainings? That's quite a bit already, but if there's, I'm holding open the space if there's something else that we might want to do and start thinking about. With that, planning for the music festival.
Okay, this is Marty. Towson is interested. I don't have a lead yet. We're looking at September, the 3rd or 4th weekend of September. I'm willing to take it on logistically, but I need to have, and I don't have yet from my commitment of someone who's going to do musically. So we're hoping to get it done. 3rd or 4th weekend of September. And if anyone wants to help us, please let me know. I know Larry will be a good reference, but I know he's not going to be there.
Yeah, I would like to think that we'd have 2 acts from Falston.
Good.
Churchville, for some reason, has been a poor participant in these cluster meetings, and yet they've been very interested in participating in the music festival and have contributed several acts in the past. They were going to try, or after the fall one last year, they were going to, they offered to put on something in January inside, and I never heard anything about that. So I don't know where they stand as far as wanting to participate. But Marty, if you put a call out, I would hope that someone from Churchville would volunteer to participate on your committee.
Great. And I know Tracy is taking our call down to the Unity Sunday with all the beautiful music that will be there. Our Tracy Hall is our music director. So I'm hoping we'll get more interest from that.
If you have trouble connecting with somebody at Harford County, let me know and I can connect through Lisa Ward,
Who is that?
the minister.
Okay, thank you.
Just let me know if you have trouble connecting with somebody and I can connect through their minister.
Thank you. We'll work on it and hopefully it'll be a big, exciting time.
So we're going to have it, do I understand we're planning on having it this year at Towson and not at Falston?
Yeah, because Larry's leaving.
Well, the church is available, and the people at Falston are interested in hosting again, but we're looking for leaders from other congregations to participate in it this time, rather than it just be all UU Falston. So, you know, I never said that we wouldn't have it, but I'm not going to lead the committee.
Larry, we need to talk.
Sure.
I'll let you have that conversation.
All right. Larry,
I
it's
think that
Marty. We'll
amphitheater
talk.
that amphitheater at Falston is amazing.
I know. September
Um,
will be beautiful too. That's one of the restraints we had from Towson is they did not want to do August.
That was the person that put it in August for the first one was the woman from Towson.
Oh
And
boy.
in August,
Boy.
because they wanted it before school started. That's why it was in August the first time. And it's why we reproduced it the second time. So that you want it in September, that's great.
We will talk.
Anything else we can do about and work on the music festival today? So thank you. So I'm gonna, because of time, I'm gonna move us away from the district regional update piece and mainly just say the district assembly is coming up. The text of the motion will be going out tomorrow. A lot of our programming has been focused on district assembly at the moment. I will also say that the youth ministry rebuild is continuing apace. I believe we'll be back to having full overnight community cons by this summer. We're in the process of doing a series of leadership trainings for youth leaders and adult advisors across the district right now. Any questions about district or regional programming at the moment?
No.
No. Well, thank you all. Then that leads us to, I'm using my tablet as a second screen. So our next meeting date, I have that. I meant to put it in there so we would have it. A second to pull it up. Just to remind everybody, it's the 4th Thursday of every month. And I will send out the meeting information beforehand at 7 p.m. So the next meeting will be at 7 p.m. on the 28th. So 7 p.m. on April 28th. And with that, we have closing reading. Any last minute words, anything else we need to add, any other agenda items? So with that, our closing reading, remember I'm also using the hymnal. It's called 585. It's titled Counsels. We must sit down and reason together. Perhaps we should sit in the dark. In the dark we could utter our feelings. In the dark we could propose and describe and suggest. In the dark we could not see who speaks. Only the words would say what they say. No one would speak more than twice. No one would speak less than once. Let's saying what we feel and what we want, what we fear for ourselves and each other into the dark. Perhaps we could begin to listen. The woman must learn to dare to speak. The men must learn to bother to listen. The women must learn to say, I think this is so. The men must learn to stop dancing solos on the ceiling. After each speaks, he or he will say a ritual phrase. It is not I who speaks, but the wind. Wind bloweth through me. Long after me is the wind. Marge Piercy. Thank you all very much. We'll have this set up in a few minutes on YouTube, and be well, and I look forward to seeing you all again next month.
Godspeed.
Thank you, David.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
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 So did you